If you could create your own game, what would it be, and what elements of real games would you take inspiration from? I can kick things off because you know me.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm just gonna list. I got some bullet points here, so I'm gonna go down my list here. It would have the character. It'd be a medieval RPG.
Okay.
Surprising no one. It would have the character creation of Black Desert Online. It would have a story alongside The Witcher, in a setting alongside The Witcher, where there's this huge, The Witcher 3 primarily, where there's this huge
There's lots of sex.
World.
There's bathtub scenes. Yes.
Well, of course. Yeah, lots of fucking. I mean, banging. Can't say that word. That's really inappropriate. Don't unsponsor our sponsors.
Totally inappropriate.
A huge, thriving world. And what I love about the setting of The Witcher is that there's all this stuff going on, but whether or not you discover it and whether or not you want to interact with it is up to you. I think that's really fucking cool. I want the party member style and the in-game banter from BioWare games. So, you're just like running around and people are chatting. Relationship building, kind of like Fire Emblem, Three Houses and Fire Emblem in general, where you can see all the different characters have these different levels of intimacy with each other. And unlike Fire Emblem,
so pervy.
I know, right? I know when I said that, I was like, ooh, intimacy. Goodness. Okay, baby, they boink or they don't boink. It's up to you. I want a castle building. So when we were talking about the village building in AC Valhalla, I love that. I like Skies of Arcadia had a good one. I know Dragon Age Inquisition kind of had something like that. But I want the customization of like Animal Crossing, like where you can just build your own fucking castle however which way you want, and I want it to have purpose and meaning. The leveling would be like Skyrim or Asheron's Call. Essentially, you are a blank slate and you could do anything you want. You can be any kind of build you want. And it would have the visceral combat of Dying Light.
You've made an impossible game.
No,
Okay.
Yeah.
Never.
I mean,
Never.
she's the editor that just adds more instead of taking anything away.
This
And
is
the producers are all like,
That's true.
no.
Here's the thing. Chris did not ask if we needed to make a good game or not.
True.
He just said a
Okay.
game.
This
So
would be
it's
a
just-
good game. It maybe not a reasonable game, but a good game. This would be a phenomenal game. This would make Game of the Year all over again.
I don't know that it would, but I think it's a good
What?
effort.
Wait, so
Only because I think when you build something so out of scope, it will ultimately fail in a practical sense.
What's out of scope about it?
So the first thing that's out of scope is
Oh my
that
God, I love she wrote notes.
I had to. She just kept going. And I was like, I have to write some of this down.
Let's go.
So the first thing that's out of scope is the setting. So this medieval setting that you've chosen is not really conducive to some of the other things that you want to have happen in the game.
Like.
So the customization, first and foremost, there's inherently a very limited amount of items that you can do in a medieval setting that's going to feel authentic to medieval. And so I would say you should just ditch the medieval and go pure fantasy.
Okay, so when I was saying medieval, okay, yeah. So that's basically what I meant. I was thinking like, give me.
You mean like
swords,
high
You
fantasy?
just
You
want
mean high
swords and
fantasy?
castles and shit.
Swords and castles and dragons and orcs and all the fantasy elements.
Oh
and
my.
stuff like that. Oh yeah, fuck yeah.
So when
This
you
is my
say
ideal
fantasy,
game, yo.
you think more like Skyrim fantasy, Lord of the Rings fantasy, Harry Potter fantasy. What kind of fantasy are we talking?
Well, probably along the lines of
Dragon Age
Skyrim.
fantasy?
Yeah, I mean, I like all the different races. I want, like the big creatures, like the dragons, and like I said, the trolls and the orcs. So whatever that is. It's like all of the above, right? I think all of those series more or less have those.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it clearly sounds like you want like a action RPG.
Action RPG, multiple party members.
Are you
yes.
going to emphasize combat or emphasize progression, RPG progression?
Porque no los dos?
Because very few, if any, I don't actually know. I don't know a single game that has nailed both in a giant open world setting.
So, okay.
We don't
No,
need to
here-
like sit here and rip her idea apart, but I
No,
think, I think,
I'm trying
yeah.
I'm trying to help Brittany come up with the best Brit game possible.
Okay.
I think about the combat in Skyrim. Like the combat to me, so I like the visceral combat of Dying Light, right? Where the weapons feel heavy, where
Yeah.
everything you do feels like it has like weight and meatiness to it, right?
Mhm.
So I think when it comes to like the sword and shield combat, that would work really well. But as far as like the RPG progression goes, I just think like something along the lines of Skyrim would be good, Or, like I said, with Asheron's Call, in the sense that you can build any kind of character you want. Now, here's the thing. I took this question as if you could make the perfect game and it would all work, how would it work? I'm not a developer. I'm not here to balance this shit. I'm just here to spitfire my ideas.
We're definitely not making you balance it. So when you say the leveling of... No, I'm just trying to refine your idea so I have a clear sense of what the game is like. So when you say the leveling of Skyrim, do you mean that you want like this like super multi-branch tree where you can pick and put points into all of these different things? You want a more concise tree where there's like 3 or 4 branches instead of all of these different branches? And is one of those branches combat focused or no?
Yeah. Okay, so a blank slate. So, like in Asheron's Call, for example, you could be any kind of character you wanted. If you wanted to fucking wear chainmail but be a mage, you could do that. Granted, was it the smartest idea? Probably not, but you could still do it. I don't like it, and this is an issue I have with a lot of MMOs these days, is how they pigeonhole you into these classes, and you can only do certain things. You can't build your own character. And in my mind, if you fuck up and build game design is hard. What?
Because game design is hard, and letting people do whatever the fuck they want is not achievable.
If you build a broken, again, game design is hard, but I'm not a game designer. This is my perfect game. It doesn't have to like actually work.
You are right.
In real life. So basically, like, if you fuck up your character, you just have to respec and get good. And that's something I love about Asheron's Call, is that you could do that. It was like your own thing, and there was not a single character out there like you. I mean, there probably was, very like down the line, but that's something I love about RPGs, is when they just let you build your character the way you want to build it, and you don't have to go down this very specific tree, which I get for balancing issues in a real game with real development issues. I get, but in a fantasy game, in Brit's ultimate game, you could just be whatever the fuck you wanted, and it would work.
What's the art aesthetic like? What does it look like?
I'm trying to think of the prettiest game I've played recently. Probably Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jinx.
Jinx, owe me a Coke. Yeah, I would say probably Horizon. It's as beautiful as Horizon. Maybe not as many trees.
You keep saying that, but you're fine with trees. You just have this weird anti-tree bias that I don't understand.
She's like, I live in the state of Washington. I fucking hate trees.
All day, every day, man. Fucking trees.
Oh my
Makes
goodness.
Perfect sense.
Is it single player?
No, it can be co-op if you would like it to be co-op, because I think playing with friends is fun.
Throw it in there.
Throw it in there.
Why not?
This is my perfect game.
Add to the stew.
What's the name of your game? Do you have a name?
Oh God. Tree Apocalypse: The Reckoning.
Perfect.
It's a working title.
That's the code name.
Tree
Apocalypse.
Apocalypse.
Product.
Exactly.
Tree Apocalypse. Okay.
The Reckoning. The Reckoning. Don't forget the Reckoning.
The Reckoning.
God damn it, Andrea.
If there was
PR
ever,
girl, you got to get this right.
If there was ever a segment that deserved to be animated, it's this conversation that just happened. Someday we'll be able to afford an animator and to animate some of these fucking talks we have.
It's gonna be great. What if the zombies get infected? Okay, now I'm getting too off the rails.
Wait, no, there's zombies in this game too?
Yeah,
there could be. Why not? What if the trees mutate and then there's bees? Follow me. There's bees that come.
No, not bees. Not the bees.
What did the bees do to you?
Honeybees. They're nice bees. They're honeybees.
Okay.
They are immune to this thing that's happening. Okay, so they're immune to this thing that's happening. And they carry the pollen from one tree to another, but they somehow along the way fuck it all up. And they create some sort of virus, right? Something that happens.
What if the bees are finally turning on us? They've learned. They've gained more attention.
That's the sequel, Stammer. That's the sequel. That's
They discovered that there were actually bees that were made in a lab, and they've mutated and evolved.
Oh my God, the killer bees. Yeah, Tree Apocalypse: Revenge of the Bees. Working title.
Wait. So is it tree apocalypse, like as in like a tree with branches? Because I have Shree Apocalypse.
Oh, tree isn't a tree with branches.
Okay. The Shree is what we call the trees that are infected.
Oh Jesus.
Trees.
There you go. It's good.
So you have these trees, and then you have these bees that are cross-pollinating. They create a virus somehow. I don't know. They're doing weird things with the pollen. And then when they infect the tree now becomes a Shree.
Hmm.
You see.
And now it's like The Happening on crack.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm into it.
And then it's like it follows, and the trees kind of like follow you when you're not looking.
Oh shit! Now they're like not Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz trees that are really fucking creepy and talk to you.
This is how we incorporate the banging, Steimer. This is how we make the
no.
banging.
Oh God, why is there banging in this universe?
I don't like where this path is headed, but
because
please
it
go.
follows. You have to bang someone for the tree to stop.
Okay, yes. Now I'm
You got
on
what
board.
I'm saying? Yeah.
I thought you were trying to fuck the trees, and I was like,
Oh God,
I can't be down. I can't
this
be down
is
with
a
that.
superstar. We are not Mary
Okay.
Catherine Gallagher. That is not what we do.
Wait, so
in
this is
game.
a scary game.
Now it is. That's the third game. That's the end of the trilogy. It'll turn into a survival horror game.
So this is
about
a three-part. Is it a three-part game, or is it one game that's in 3 episodes?
No,
Three
I think
part.
we'll have three part. Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
it's-
we
now
need
I'm
three
now I'm invested, and now I'm a stakeholder in this.
y'all doubted me, but look at this beautiful thing it's turned into.
Wow. Okay.
I like it.
Okay. Tree Apocalypse: The Reckoning, parts 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Well, part 2 was what? Revenge of the Bees. And what
Revenge
was the
of the
third?
Bees,
What's the
title.
third gonna be called?
Oh, I don't know. So we got the shrees that are the infected trees, right? So we got the shrees.
Yeah.
And then they're following you, and you have to bang someone.
So
Okay,
that's
so
Rise of the
Treeapocalypse,
Shrees.
Tree follows.
Tree follows. Bang
Tree
to be
follows.
free. Bang to be free. Don't forget that second part. That's really
Bang to
important.
be free of the tree.
Yeah.
Wait,
Bang
so-
to be free of the tree.
So the first one is just Treepocalypse. The
the
second one,
reckoning. The reckoning.
Treepocalypse: The Reckoning. Sorry. The second one is Treepocalypse: Revenge of the Bees.
Working title.
Mhm.
And then the third one is Treepocalypse: Bang to be Free.
Yes.
In parentheses of the trees.
Yes.
In
So this
pareth-
is the world's greatest titling system, and I think
Copywriting this. I don't
yeah.
want anyone to steal our idea.
TM. We've already put it out into the world, and this is a public space, so therefore it is copyright protected. I think.
Try it.
I'm a copyright lawyer expert.
Yeah, see, look at that.
Yeah.
Andrew's our PR. Simer's the attorney. I almost called you an attorney. It's attorney and lawyer.
And
And-
it's a new
I-
job.
Just the fucking whack job with the weird ass ideas.
It's the whack job. Okay. This was way more fleshed out than I was anticipating. Brittany, you nailed this segment. You nailed it.
She usually does.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. Steimer, do you have an idea prepared, or would you like me to
So-
riff?
Here's my qualm. I do have a separate answer, but as Brittany was talking, because I wrote some things down, I was like, it could be this or could be that. But as she was talking, I was like, to me, I don't know what to tell you. The perfect game for me already exists. The perfect series for me already exists. It's
Viva
Quest for
Pinata?
Glory. No, it's not Pip. I
I
love
should've
Viva
known
Pinata, but no, it's Quest
Yeah.
for Glory because I'm like, it has everything I would want. And if we could modernize it in a way, that would be great. But that would be what I would really want out of the thing because it had a lot of puzzle elements. Every game was the same character. However, it focused on different lore of different countries, which I found, or different regions, which I am always fascinated by. It's part of the reasons why I really liked the new God of War, why I'm interested in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Like, I want to poke around in ancient lore and figure out what people believed in and why, and just like I find it really fascinating.
So it's based on real world lore.
Yeah. So like there's Baba Yaga in the first game, which is a real folklore. There's so not all of them, but like they're usually based on like different regions. So your character gets transported around, then it goes to like an Arabic setting, then it goes to like the Saharan desert, then it goes to sort of like, my mind is blanking on the proper term for it, but like Slovakian kind of area, that folklore. And then the last one was more Germanic. So it kind of hit a lot of those different areas that I would think were really interesting. I also enjoy, I would like the combat to be better because it was a really old game. Back then they didn't really have, a lot going on, but I liked the way it worked. It just needs to be more maybe action oriented, more visceral, be fun. It has a similar system to what Brittany was talking about, where you can build a fighter that has magic, or you can build a thief that has magic. Like you can put points into whatever you want, and it's a Skyrim leveling system. So the more you do those things, as long as you have an initial amount of points in them, you can continue to build those skills. The characters carried over from one game to the next. You could bring your save file over. It unlocked a new character class if you did that. You had romance, and like there were so many things where I'm like, this is just like for especially when it was created, it's such a fucking masterpiece that I feel like I like that.
Is this what Brittany? Is this what Brittany should go play next? Is that what you're saying?
I was just gonna say, would you recommend playing it? Okay.
Yes, because I also think, I mean, when you call it an adventure game, I think that would scare a lot of people off, because a lot of adventure games are nonsensical puzzles, is what I will call them at best, right? Like some shit you'd never think of. But all of the puzzles that you need to solve are not only logical, they are based on your class. So how you choose to play will depend on how you can solve the issue at hand.
Interesting. So I would whack a lot of shit. Well, you know what I mean?
I mean, you would have to, you need to get good if you're going to do that, because like I said, the combat kind of sucks. But you can, yes, you could theoretically just be like, yo, I'm a fighter and I'm just going to run in there and fucking kill everything. You could do that technically. Except on like one part I'm thinking in the beginning where it is a puzzle. You do need to like figure out how to knock people down without fighting them physically. But a lot of the main pathway things are like shit you can brute force your way through. You have to like think like the fighter. What's the fighter gonna do? Or think like the magician. What would the magician do? And I really, really liked that. Now, that being said, I do think there's also, in a similar vein, which is what got me thinking about Quest for Glory, a people slash I don't know what, I guess you just call them a people. The Romani people, I think, are really interesting. And part of what I found interesting about them is the way that they traveled. And I think it would be really interesting to have more games focus on them and their culture, and also gives you a little bit of freedom to explore others along the way and along their paths. So I don't know exactly what that game would be, but I do think it could be interesting to do an action RPG sort of. I would think it would be more maybe like in terms of structure, like a Tomb Raider, in that there are mini sandboxes that you are entered into, but it's not. I wouldn't want like an Assassin's Creed style. Here's a giant fucking map. Go do all the things. That sounds not what I would be looking for. It'd be much more of like a curated experience, storyline wise. But I think that could be pretty cool, and something that not a lot of people have done anything with.
So I'm just going to throw this out there, and I don't know how relevant it is. So the Uncharted franchise, for example, is part of the reason why you like that is because Nathan Drake tends to visit these different cultures and you learn about different things like that? Or is that just like not nitty gritty? Okay.
No, I do find, I like that part. I like being like, ooh, and then I mean, it's what I always think. I'm like, is this real, or is this some bullshit they made up for the game? So then I like go and I look it up, and I find out the parts that like are actually true, and the parts that are just, a little bit muddled because it's history and who really knows.
Interesting.
I am so fascinated by, I mean, you've talked about Quest for Glory a little bit in the past, but I guess I didn't realize that you had so much passion for it. I mean, especially since like the games are very old. Like the first game came out in 1989, and this feels like a franchise that could really benefit from a Final Fantasy VII style remake.
They will never do it, but yeah, oh my god, if they did, it would be fucking amazing.
Now, is it the same people that made that game recently?
Yeah, Hero U. Those are the same. Those are the two writers, the main writers of that game. And one of the things that I did really like about now, if you do play it, Brittany, please save often and frequent. Like, just save all the time.
Okay.
Because the game will still let you do stupid shit, or you just die. And the death notes, I guess, for lack of a better word, whatever, the pop-up when it happens, they're always really funny. So for instance, if you are a thief, you have a lockpick set. That's part of the thing that comes with your character. You can pick your nose with it. However, if your lockpick skill isn't very good, you can kill yourself by picking your nose with it, because it jams straight up into your brain. So like that, and like there's just like goofy shit like that where I love it so much, and it's like I can't even explain to you. It is on goodoldgames.com. So if you are like, you know what, fuck it, I'm in quarantine. I think they're like $5 or something for like the whole set. It's really cheap. Wow. But they are just some really well-made games. The second one's a little bit weird in that it's different than all the rest. A lot of them are, point and click, like you click and walk, whatever. In the second game, you have to type out a lot of the commands. So it's like, ask so-and-so about whatever, ask them about this, put the water on this. Like, so that second game can be a little jarring for people. But otherwise, the rest of them are fairly...
Are they long games? I mean, depending on like how quickly you get the puzzles, I get.
I don't. Yeah, I think it just probably depends on how fast you can figure out what you need to do. For me, I could fucking speed run through them because I've played them all so many times that I'm just like, yes, all right, this is done in a couple of hours. Let's go.
I'd love to watch you play that sometime. I think it'd be really interesting.
I mean, hey man, maybe if I finish Later Daters early, maybe I will hop into a Quest for Glory run.
That'd be
on
so
my
cool.
birthday. I mean, really, what else do I want to play on my birthday besides my favorite games?
Right? Right?
So, yeah.
Into it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's been so interesting listening to you kind of both of you pick games, and like it's tough for me because like when I think about games that I love, like the genres vary so wildly. If I look back on like my favorite games of all time, it's like, do I want to make like a music and rhythm game because of my love for Amplitude, Frequency, Rock Band, and Guitar Hero? Or do I want to make an arcade racing game because of my love for Cruising USA, Need for Speed, Burnout, and others? Or do I want to like go with something more modern, like a first-person shooter or like an action RPG? Because I really didn't get into RPGs until I was an adult. I like never played RPGs as a kid. Just straight up did not do it ever. And I don't know if it's just because I didn't have time or interest or what. And so like my inclination is like, oh, but RPGs feel like they just have so much more creativity that you can do. But like, I don't think I would. I think I would make something very similar to Destiny if I got to pick. But I would make it with a very fleshed out campaign. Because I think that's what Destiny's really missing for me. So I do like the sci-fi setting. I probably would bring in more fantasy elements. Not to say that game is in any way, shape, or form based in realism, because it is most definitely not. But there's not enough magic in that game for me that feels like it's actual magic. Obviously, I say that, and even saying it out loud is kind of a head scratcher because there's like technically it's like you're just like shooting with magic all the time. Like each of the classes has all of this magic that they use with Magic of the Light, and then you have like Void and Arc and Solar and all these things that you do, but it doesn't feel like magic in Destiny the way that, you know, Mass Effect even kind of leans a little bit more into magic with like all the biotics, but it doesn't feel fantasy to me. It feels more like space fighting than it does like, it feels more sci-fi to me.
It's more like pew pew.
Yeah,
weird
and like,
lasery
so
shit.
I would probably lean more into the fantasy elements of what's happening in a sci-fi shooter, and I would also bring in just way more story, and I would get rid of some of these repetitive bullshit live service stuff that they have tied to it, and I would just make it the same way that it feels super polished and like the gameplay loop is fun and it's rewarding. And I would allow people to put as many different shaders on their outfit as they want, whenever they want, and they could change the color of their outfit at any time with no restrictions.
That's a pipe dream, Andrea.
I would love to hear, whenever you're done with your Destiny idea, your take on the music genre, because that's something I don't know nearly enough about to even speculate on. That would be interesting.
Sure. But I think what I really just want, if I could take Destiny and fix it,
turn it into a music game.
Air quotes, fix it. No, definitely wouldn't turn it into a music game. Because like the thing about music is sometimes you just need a break from the repetitiveness that a music and rhythm game requires of you. Because like any skill, like game that really focuses on the skill based part of it and not the creativity part of it, it's repetition. You just play and play and play and play the same stuff over and over and over again until you get the pattern, and then you essentially memorize the pattern, and then you have to execute the pattern. And that's what's really satisfying about music and rhythm games to me, to go off on a little tangent, is that you get the sense of satisfaction of recognizing it. And what's really like, I'm having like this fucking epiphany when I'm saying this out loud right now. About me saying this and being like, oh, this is why I love music and rhythm games. And this is clearly why people love Souls games as well, but in a very different way. But it's about recognizing a pattern, playing the pattern, failing at the pattern, and then ultimately by war of attrition, learning the pattern and then beating the pattern, and then you've succeeded and you feel like a god because you've succeeded against the pattern. Whether that pattern is a boss hitting you with an axe over and over again and killing you, or whether it's a bunch of notes on a highway that you hit at the precise right moment. And if you don't, you have to quit and start the highway over again because you know if you don't, you're not going to get enough points to succeed to the score that you need to go on to the next song. I never thought about it that way before, but now that I do, I have a deeper appreciation for people who like Souls games. I still don't get it because it's not my kind of pattern that I like, but now I understand it a little bit more. Anyway.
The psychology of it is very similar.
Yes, it is. So that aside, going back to like my FPS, because I've really gotten into shooters in a way that I never thought possible. Like when I first started my career in video games, I was afraid of shooters. They were foreign to me. I always felt like I was failing when I played shooters, and I was frustrated and ultimately not having fun. And when you're not having fun when you're playing a game, it's like, what's the point, right? Like you're playing this for entertainment, to pass the time, to share a community experience with other players. And if none of those things are bringing you joy, like why are you doing the thing, right? Find something else to do. You have one life to live. Make it happy. And I was always afraid of shooters because I failed a lot. And I finally was forced to play because of my career that I chose. And I was like, well, I guess I have to play these shooters if I'm going to get these opportunities to talk about them on camera. I don't want to look like a dummy. So I just have to do it. And so when I finally forced myself to sit down and do it and practice and got good at it, I really developed a love for them and an appreciation for the gameplay design behind them, which is why if I was going to make a game, Lionbeard, I would make a really highly polished, super fun, first-person shooter that has great PvE elements and that obviously will have a PvP element because shooters should have PvP, but also has an amazing campaign that you can play co-op with your friends or play by yourself, but has a campaign, like a full story campaign. Like, I love what Machine Games has done with Wolfenstein. I just don't like the setting of Wolfenstein as much as I like fantasy elements, whether it be sci-fi or high fantasy. The fact that Wolfenstein is set in this really dark, really sad time of American history, and I know it's an alternative history that like it's fake, right? But it's still the Nazis. I'm like, I don't want to live in that world. I don't want to spend time in that world. Fuck those guys. Like, they're bad. And I know that you spend the whole game killing them, but like, I don't want to be there. I'd rather kill some weird made-up alien that doesn't exist than have to like look at swastikas all day long. That's just my personal feeling of it. And I play those games because I appreciate the artistry of them. But that being said, I would take something like that kind of campaign that feels really robust and cinematic and has these storytelling moments, but also has super slick FPS gameplay that feels good, that's weighty, and the guns are good, and the gunplay is good, and just take the setting and make it different and build it into this sci-fi fantasy world. And then also have all those PvE elements of like the raids and like the public instances and the shared world aspect of Destiny is a thing that I think is so innovative and that Bungie just does not get enough credit for, that very few games do well. And that's why every time I have the opportunity to nominate them for a multiplayer award, I do, because I think they go unrecognized in the tech behind the multiplayer building that they did in that game. Anyway, this has gone places. This conversation.
It's been good. We've created an award-winning trilogy. Steimer's convinced me to play Quest for Glory, and you had an epiphany.
I had a fucking epiphany about Souls games of all things. I don't like Souls games.
Comes around. You did it.
Oh boy.
Thank you, Lionbeard. Maybe that'll be my Viking name is Lionbeard.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah.
I don't think it gets better than this, so we're just going to go ahead and call it for tonight. Thank you very much for that fantastic suggestion for a conversation. If you want to suggest our next conversation to happen, you've got to get over to patreon.com/whatsgoodgames. Sign up for one of our membership levels. You can get in for as little as $2 a month, you guys.
That's what she said.
That is what she said, indeed. And then we vote. You make suggestions, everybody votes, and then we talk about it and have conversations like Treepocalypse, bang to free.
Andrea, you keep forgetting the reckoning, and I'm really upset about it.
No, I read
Okay.
part 3, okay? Part 3 is tree apocalypse, bang to free of the trees.
Okay. Do you get the
Bang to
parentheses
be
in there?
free. Damn it, bang to be
Bang
free.
to be free. And then you gotta get the
Bang.
parens in there.
Yeah. No, she did.
I
she
got
did.
I got the parentheses with the of the
Okay, okay.
trees.
Yeah, no, she did. She did.
Okay.
All right,
Still have a job.
everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you Monday morning, bright and early, for What's Good Games Live. But for now, we hope you have a great weekend thinking about epiphanies, Quest for Glory, and banging trees with crazy bees. Goodbye, everybody.
That could be like part 4.
Sure, why not?